All right, Roy. Well, I feel like this kind of came out of left field for a lot of people. I'm wondering, how long did you know about this fight? How did it come about?
We're looking on 2 weeks.
Okay.
No, this is actually just really spontaneous because I was talking to my wife. We were talking about bucket list stuff, and I reached out to George for because they just had the boxing match, and I just wanted to get a boxing match in. And then this came up, and this is like another thing on the bucket list. So I'm like, let's go at it.
Okay, nice. So, did you ever officially retire? I know it's been like 3 years or so since we last saw you. Okay. Did you ever officially retire? No.
No, never officially retired because once I retire, I'm one of those fighters. I'm retired. Kind of like when you move out of the house. You're like, I moved out of the house.
You ain't going back.
You're like, I'm on my own. I'm on my own.
Right. Yeah. So I guess why the layoff, right? Because you finished your contract with Bellator, if I'm not mistaken. Why haven't we seen you in these last couple of years?
You know what? I've been focusing on a whole bunch of other business stuff. So like, because there is a life after fighting, and then it's just, when bucket lists start popping up, like this year, like one of my bucket lists, I've been talking to Scott Coker for the last 2 years was the Fedor fight. And then he kept on, we'll see. I'll talk to Fedor. Yeah, we'll see. And then out of left field, going to MMA Junkie going, oh, Ryan Bader, huh?
Yeah.
So, you're like, that's the game. They stick it to you.
So at what point did you start getting the itch of like, hey, let's get a fight here. Like, it's time for me to get back in there.
Not really an itch. It was just more just going down the bucket list.
Yeah.
And, because, I've talked to Nate. Nate, it was going to be on Nate's card, and then it got pushed back because it was on June, and then, Jake Paul, So, right, and then that one just happened, and here we are. It just kind of, stars started aligning, and I'm like, okay, cool, sounds great.
Nice. Bareknuckle MMA. I know you're a veteran. You've been around for, 20 years. But have you ever done anything like this, at least legally?
No, you know what? I've never done any bare knuckle except in a street fight. Right. But usually those don't go very well, and they're very fast because there's usually concrete next to you.
Right. Yeah. So what are you expecting in this one? Is it just kind of like an MMA training camp, or is there something new, added to it without the gloves?
I think without the gloves, I think it's just like it's literally like man versus man, as long as the ref doesn't get involved. Like it's like the ref always is the one that screws things up. But I think for the most part, it would like this is what's gonna happen in a street type street fight, and then also the one thing I do like about bare knuckle is grappling makes things a lot easier because the gloves don't interfere with a lot. Because all you gotta do is do this, and you can block chokes.
And is this going to be a one-off bucket list thing, or can we expect a career in bare knuckle MMA?
You know what? I don't know. It's one of those like I always go back to the wife and see what the wife says. But I got the okay on this one, so the boss says we're good.
Yeah. And you had mentioned that you had interest in boxing. Is that still on the list?
That's definitely on the list because that was like the one reason why I took this fight was to get to the boxing.
Yeah. A lot of MMA fighters now in boxing. It seems that kind of industry has taken off in the last couple of years or so. Any names? Anybody that interests you out there?
No, actually, we've been spitballing. It actually was brought to my attention. Samuel Peters, a WBC heavyweight champ, wanted to fight, and I thought that was a good, would be a good matchup because he was a former heavyweight boxing champ, and then former MMA champ, and then we kind of go at it. I think he's a little bit younger than me, but I think it'll be a good fight.
So coming back here, how long do you want to keep on doing this? Is it until the missus allows, or what?
It's always until the missus allows, but for the most part, it's I'm just going out there having fun, and just hitting things on the bucket list and telling all the people that still say, hey, you can't do it, and look what I can do.
Right. What else is on there besides boxing?
Boxing, we got bare knuckle. There's a lot of other things, but it has nothing to do with fighting. So that'll come out after.
Gotcha.
Very cool. Couple from me, Roy. You mentioned Gamebred boxing, last month in Milwaukee. Did you watch that card, by the way? And
I watched parts of it. So that's it was. So it was just exciting to see like Roy Jones Jr., Pettis, and just all the. It's just like bare knuckle last week. It was a great card. So you're getting. enthusiastic about fighting again.
Right. I was going to mention that. How crazy was that? Bareknuckle this past weekend took over, I felt like, Saturday night in the UFC with Perry and Rockhold. Of course, Conor McGregor being involved. What was your take on all of that happened this past weekend?
It was definitely, it was just exciting because they're fighters that you already like, I'm a fan of.
Right.
And then I'm just watching them fight something different. That's all it is. So, like, me fighting Bareknuckle is, if you're a Roy Nelson fan, you're just gonna go, oh, this is something different. Let me. But what can Roy do? I'm gonna still cheer for Roy. So I think that's the dynamic, is because it's like being a fighter and then going, oh, we got knives. Oh, wait, no, we got guns. So it's just a different, type of thing where you're like, I gotta watch. Now it's an event versus, oh, there's fights on this weekend.
Right.
Oh, it's Friday. Oh, okay. Oh, fights next weekend. Oh. Which one do I watch? It's like baseball without watching until October, going, okay, who's in the playoffs?
I like that. Yeah, what's your favorite baseball team? Got one?
Back in the day, it used to be Oakland A's, but they might be moving to Vegas, so who knows?
Vegas. I like that. With Jorge, he's had 3 with Gamebred FC, with 3 Bareknuckle MMA events before. First one ever in Florida. For one, have you ever seen any of the first 3 events? And did you take anything away if you've seen any of those fights?
I did. I actually watched because I was trying to see, what's the difference. Is you're more tentative on, like typical Bareknuckle. I feel like it's balls to the wall.
Right.
Because it's 2 5-minute rounds. It's 10 minutes with a 4-minute break. Where a regular MMA fight is 3 5s, and then you only got 3-minute breaks, or actually 2-minute breaks, and you're doing an extra 50. But I think to watch, you're just watching it, like if you hit somebody, it's a more of a pinpoint, like it's a sharp blow versus like a big thump.
Right. I agree. Last one, the generic one for you, my man. What's the result Friday night here in Florida?
Result is always, hand raised, and then having a good time in Florida.
There you go. Appreciate your time.
Thanks.
I have one more question. I know you're pretty cool with Francis Ngannou, right?
Mm-hmm.
What'd you make of his free agent exit from the UFC and that whole ordeal?
I don't know the ins and outs of it. If it's not a money thing, it could be like I want to have control of my own, career, or it could be like, hey, I also want, an ESPN commentating job in Africa. Like, who knows? Like, because when you start looking, like, that was the reason why I went to Bellator, is because I was promised, the stuff on the outside, where, it's just promises. So it's like, so you kind of just take what you can, you're hoping people's words stick up, but, so you never know. So I think that's where Francis might be, stuck. Because, if one FC didn't want him because maybe they promised him, fights in Africa. Like, who knows? Because they're trying to break into different, markets. So I'd have to talk to Francis next time and just kind of go, hey, what are you thinking? Or is it a money thing, or is it just, hey, I'm good. Because, I made enough money and I'm good.
Yeah. And lastly, I forgot to ask, is a return to MMA possible, like MMA with gloves?
You know what? I still have a couple people on the bucket list, so the answer is always a yes. But it's kind of like your celebrity crush. So my wife knows my bucket list stuff, and as long as those come up, I'm good.
All right. Appreciate the time, Ray.
Thanks.